I'm not a hand wringer. I'm not. I'm a plumber. I'm not hyperbolic. I deal with literal. You know what? I deal with literal shit, and I don't. I try not to get too worked up. But we're in uncharted waters right now, and this gets me into a little bit of trouble, David. Uh, I think Joe Biden is just about as responsible for me running for Congress as Donald Trump.
Alrighty, welcome back. Alabama Politics This Week. Josh Moon, David Person, and we are happy now to be joined by wait a minute, is this a Democrat? Wait, how about that? A Democrat running for Congress in Alabama? Andrew Sneed, how are you?
It is a shocker. I'm doing very well this morning. How about y'all?
Oh, not too bad, man.
Good,
Not too
man.
bad. Well, it's it is, it is always a little bit surprising to me around here whenever I run into another white male Democrat that is, about our age, I guess. And honestly, we're for a long time a dwindling sort of a group of folks, and I think we've started to increase in numbers. So it's a little bit it's a little bit more usual at this point. But I guess, man, tell me a little bit about yourself, and I know you're running for the 5th district, but a little bit more about yourself.
I think we might need to consider developing a secret handshake, Josh.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. They'll pull you over in a shadowy corner. Are you a Dem? Yeah, me too. Let's
Yeah, right. Yeah.
tap it out. I am born and raised in the 5th District in Huntsville. I was brought home from Humana Hospital, if you're really from here and you know where that was.
Yeah.
In 1980 to the farm just outside of town. And then we moved to town closer to downtown as I was growing up. So I grew up here. I was lucky enough to go to school all over town at Blossomwood and then at ASFL out on Maston Lake, and then AAA and Huntsville Middle. And I graduated from Lee High School in the class of 98. And all the things. Played football, did show choir and musicals. And I was previously, I was the first ever white officer in a previously all black fraternity. Lee was a pretty special place at that time.
Nice.
And I think Lee still is a special place. So that was, Lee was a really great part of my upbringing. And then I went to college in Boston at Boston University. I joke with folks that, like all master plumbers, I had a theater scholarship to Boston University. And so I did that. And then I was in New York for 7 years, and I came back south in 2011, and I married my wife in 2013, and we've got 3 little girls here. I have a small business. I'm a plumber, a gas fitter, mechanical contractor. We're both born and raised here, and we're invested in this community and trying to do a little better by it.
There's something that you said there that I'd like to go back, because I was going to ask you something else, but then you mentioned Lee. And I'm assuming that, what was the racial makeup of Lee High School? Do you know when you were there?
It was just about dead even.
Yes, sir.
Probably 55, 45, or 50. It was real close to dead even. We were like United Colors of Benetton. It was pretty great. Pretty great diversity and balance at school at that time.
Yeah, so I kind of had this similar experience around the same time. I think, although I look much younger, I think I'm actually a little older. Sorry. But I was at Austin, and we were basically the same as well. We were basically 50-50 at the time. And, when I look back and try to figure out exactly what it was that led me to be, I guess a liberal or progressive or not a huge racist and blaming, minorities for every problem that arises in my life. I fall back to that a lot, is that I went to school and had friends, who were black kids, and I went to their house and we hung out a lot. And it has never occurred to me that these people were somehow a source of a problem for me. And so I wonder do you feel the same way?
I think it's a great, you almost have to ask yourself, because for whatever reason, the way I was raised or whatever it may be, racial politics, racial dynamics has always been extremely important to me. I mean, almost as early as I can remember. Maybe it was going from Blossomwood over to North Huntsville for school, where I was a minority. I don't, for whatever reason, it's just, I almost can't wrap my head around racism, even though, of course, we grow up around it. But you almost wonder, especially growing up in a place like the 5th Congressional District, um, where does it come from? You know, how is someone else's lived experience so different from my own, um, that they came away thinking these crazy thoughts with these crazy feelings, which is really all based on fear. You know, what are you so afraid of when you grew up here in the 5th Congressional District and you've seen, the way we can and should be? I was, for whatever reason, I picked up Cornel West when I was 18. That's probably one of the most important books I've ever read, was Race Matters. I think I saw it in the airport, and for whatever reason, I picked it up, and that book pierced my consciousness. But we were doing diversity training as a Kappa at Lee. And from the time I was 16, and sort of awareness of those sort of things, being intentional, before it was trendy, to be unpacking some of these things and understanding these historical biases, and how do we move forward from them. But yet my experience, it sounds like, was similar to yours, Josh. And I do, it causes physical pain. It's the fact that racism is still associated with the South and with Alabama, which of course is back for good reason, is terrible, because I think in a lot of ways, especially in North Alabama, we are, but we can and should be better than that.
I love the fact that today I've been invited to the White Male Democrat Club. That's pretty cool. I don't get that invitation very often. So
it's a small meeting in our.
We had to expand our membership, David.
Yeah.
So it's like, it might have been like the Kappas when I was at Lee. Okay,
Yeah.
come on.
None of the food is seasoned properly, and we've got raisins in the potato salad. But come on.
Yeah,
man,
I was going to say we got to work on those things.
Yeah.
No raisins in the potato salad. Look, Andrew, it's good to have you on with us today, man. Tell folks why you are running. What is your motivation?
I can't say this sentence without saying my wife and I. I always laugh at coach speak. When you hear Coach Saban talk about we, who is we? We. Because this is a we venture. My wife is my rock. She is, her name's Bethany. She's an attorney here in town. She is definitely the brains and the looks of the operation, no doubt, like Josh's wife is of his. There's no way that's not the case. All good men are lucky enough to outkick their coverage. And that's certainly what I did. Bethany and I tell folks, I'm not a hand wringer. I'm not, I'm a plumber. I'm not hyperbolic. I deal with literal, I deal with literal shit, and I don't, I try not to get too worked up, but, we're in uncharted waters right now. And this gets me into a little bit of trouble, David. I think Joe Biden is just about as responsible for me running for Congress as Donald Trump. And let me explain. I don't see them as the same in any way. And Joe Biden was a good president. And I mean, can you imagine passing bipartisan infrastructure? You almost can't even imagine that at this point. That said, I think our party's really lost touch with its base, and with places like North Alabama in many ways. We didn't elect a Republican here until 2013, I guess, 2012. This, for all of human history, North Alabama was Democrat. Now, I know a lot of that was Dixiecrat, but even through 2012 with Bud Kramer and then Parker Griffith, this is a Democratic bastion. And in the last 13 years, everything has changed. And it shouldn't be about party. So let me lock in on answering your question. It feels like our party has lost touch. Like, you can't be the party of the working class if you're not willing to meet them where they are, even if where they are isn't where you hope they'll be. Right? We gotta. So, and you can't help folks if you can't govern and you can't get elected. So, when Joe Biden announced for re-election, something in me sort of snapped, because I don't know if y'all are familiar with Hamilton at all, but my children play it all the time.
Yeah. Yes.
And there's a song in Hamilton that Washington is singing, and he's talking about teach them how to say goodbye. And it's not just about age; it's about letting go of power. Um, and I think that power, we certainly know it corrupts, absolutely. And we really see that in our politics right now. And so, for whatever reason, the president decided to run for reelection. I thought this is just the exact wrong signal. Everything that is reinforcing people's cynicism and apathy and coming to believe that their voice simply doesn't matter, you are reinforcing with Joe Biden running for reelection. And I thought we're just going to keep losing and not being able to help people. More importantly, forget the loss, but you can't help people. We're going to keep losing until we recognize these critical issues. And I think the party has begun to recognize, when you see what happened in Virginia, when you see what happened in New Jersey and Georgia and Mississippi back on the 4th of November, I think we're recognizing, this need to meet people where they are. So to answer your question, David, I recognize something was broken. I'm good at fixing broken things. I'm really good at recognizing problems. And I think that I understand how we need to tackle this one. And to give people their voice back, and that's a more representative government. And then separately, there's there's an existential crisis where the institutions that keep us safe and have allowed the pursuit of a more perfect union. It takes a long time. It's still very broken, but we've been allowed to pursue that. Those things are being intentionally destroyed. And so that becomes a 4-alarm fire. So the combination of what I proudly identify as my party, not understanding where the battle was being fought and what we needed to be doing to win it, coupled with an existential threat, even in the midst of having 3 little girls, a 10 and 9 and 5-year-old, and a small business, and my wife's business, and all the things. We said we just can't sit back. Got to answer the call.
All right, let's assume for a minute that you are going to be the Democratic nominee after the primary in May. You're going to be going up against Dale Strong. I don't think he's got any opposition, so you'll be going up against Dale Strong. Let's assume. How do you contrast yourself with Dale Strong?
Well, Josh would say you start with haircut.
Right.
Where I
That's right.
contrast myself
Mr. Trotter
first and
from my cousin Vinny.
every time I am very familiar with your line of reasoning there. A fellow BU alum, Marissa Tomei, in that
That's right.
movie.
That's right.
A great
Oscar
movie.
winner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're right. The two youths.
Yeah.
What?
No, that's not bad.
Did you say
I
youths?
do have a degree in acting. I do.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Hopefully, it better not be awful. This is really important. Because I believe this will become a bilateral choice. And on one hand, you have someone that doesn't listen to people. Literally, literally. I've talked to a city councilwoman here, person here in Huntsville, from a different part of town, who you won't return her phone call. That's the first person relaying of that story to me. I'll tell you a story. I met with, early on in this process, I met with a very well-respected business person from our community. I'm very well-respected. You'd know him if I said his name. This person's name. And I don't know this person from Adam, but we took a lunch because they know a lot about something I wanted to know more about. And so I went and said, would you mind having lunch with me? I just want to hear your thoughts. And they relayed a story to me of Dale knew them well, went to this person when he was deciding to run, and said, what do you think about this? He said, okay, stay true to who you are and represent the district. Fast forward a couple years ago. He's been in office for a while. We see the voting record, we see the trends, and can't complete a sentence without saying President Trump and really sort of absent as a representative. And this person said to him, and this is a first person relaying of this story to me. I have no reason to doubt it. And it said to him, hey, what about all the things that you said that you were going to stay true to? And Dale threw his arm around his shoulder and said to him, oh man, you got to say what you got to say to get reelected. And that is everything that is broken about politics. That is everything that is broken and disgusts me about politics. And that is despicable. That is not the job. The job is to represent the district, which starts with meeting people where they are, even when you don't agree with them. That's the critical difference between me and Dale, is he is a divider. And what I would like to believe, based on my lived experience, going all the way back to Lee High School, is that unity is something we should still aspire towards, and that the job of the representative is first and foremost to advocate for the district and solve problems, and second, to listen to everyone in the district, even when you don't agree with them, and consider what they have to say. And our party has also been culpable. You know, we want to be the party of empathy, but we want our empathy. But empathy has to be a two-way street. That means meeting everyone where they are and recognizing that their fears are their own, their concerns are their own, and nobody gets to dismiss them. So Democrat concerns and fears have to be just as important as Republican ones for the representative of this, for any district, but this district, especially a district like ours that really is actually pretty balanced. We're a moderate place. So that is the number one contrast, I would say, based on my steady observation for the last couple of years, when you won't meet with people, especially not people that don't agree with you. That is exactly the wrong kind of leadership for any district, but especially for the 5th Congressional District.
One final question, Andrew. What do you think is the biggest need here in the 5th Congressional District that you, as a congressperson, could address and hopefully solve?
Again, it does start with listening to people and all people, because I think there's a lot of untapped. My company is called Whole Home Solutions, and I would try to humbly describe myself as a whole systems thinker. And so I think that we have to look at this district of not just Huntsville and not just the military space industrial complex, but agriculture and just the working class. We need to look as a whole system, and what are we doing for the district as a whole? And so I don't know if it's as much about my specific positions, but my disposition. So my disposition is one of listening and one of service, period, full stop. And I think that, there's a book called Good to Great. And my main takeaway from that book was, when you're building a company, you don't even have to know where you're going if you get the right people on the bus. So I think that if you get the right people on the bus, if you have the right disposition for service, then we can start driving in the right direction as a district as a whole.
Yeah, I like everything that you're saying. I do, and I like where you're coming from, because I've argued for a long time that the Democratic Party has missed the boat in a number of different ways, and one of the primary ones is not focusing more on attracting working class people. You look at the you look at the policies. The policies align with so much with what working class people say that they want, what they say they need out of, and what they want from a politician, we've sometimes disregarded those things and in favor of other things, and too often gotten dragged into this culture war over transgender athletes and other things, and so that's going to be the case. I mean, I think I've just looking at the number of emails I get from Mr. Trotter every day in his camp. I see that it's he knows that there's a fight coming over this seat. And you look at what happened with Afton Ben in Tennessee last night. Listen, she didn't win, but she turned, what was a 22-point crew. I think it was actually a 20. I think Trump won it by 22. I think the last race for that seat was 24 or 25. Yeah. And so, and she turned that into 8 or so. And so, that's a big swing. And so there's going to be one here, and it's been moving that direction. Now, if I'm not mistaken, that district voted more for Biden than any other congressional district in the state, except for Terry Sewell's. And so, so you've got some folks, some things working in your favor. At the same time, we also still have the straight ticket Republican voting. We also still have the fact that Republicans in this state have been very successful in turning the word Democrat into almost a cuss word.
Yeah, sure.
How do you eat when you're going in? Because I think you relate very, very well to working class folks and to their problems. But how do you get over that hump of oh, he's a Democrat, he's a liberal Dem, coming in here trying to sell me on got men playing in women's sports. So how do you get past all that and get to the point where you can hear a real issue from them and not this hyperbolic nonsense?
Well, first off, don't try to sell them on men and women's sports. So the truth is helpful. And in this case, I haven't worked in an attic since yesterday. So I work under houses. I've been in the trades. I worked with my hands for 25 years, literally. I was in restaurants I have a degree in acting, which means that I worked in restaurants. I was a New York City bartender. I helped open and run restaurants in Birmingham and Tuscaloosa. Was managing 40 people, when I started over at 32 years old as a $10 an hour plumber's helper for real. So 13 years ago, I entered the trades as a plumber's helper and I worked my way up. I started my business. After 7 years, I started my company with literally these two hands, and my wife's old GMC Yukon. And now we have 8 employees and 6 work trucks out on the road. The truth in this case, relating to working class people, is that I am a working class person. I work with my hands for a living and have for a long time. So that's part of it. So I don't think someone can paint me into a corner that I've never been in my life. And I don't think it's Dale Strong's net worth is $25.6 million according to Google, something, or 26.2. I can't remember the last time I checked that. That's 2 different sources. If you want to Google it, like all EMTs, he's $25 million.
It's just a volunteer fire department.
But it pays very well in the volunteer fire department.
That's right.
That's not, and that's not entirely fair. I know he's family, but that's neither here nor there. My point is, I don't believe he's ever walked in the shoes that I've walked in for a quarter century, ever. And so it is something that I understand personally. And again, meeting people where they are means not telling them what they're supposed to think, not telling them that their fears aren't valid, not telling them that their concerns aren't valid. It means listening to them and trying to find common ground. Or even if you can't find common ground, acknowledge that, hey, I respect that you feel that way. That mutual respect term is the starting place. And it has to be the starting place for our party. I just want to say, I think the election last night was hopeful, but that's not winning. And I am not naive. And I think that I would say maybe a differentiator between myself, because we are in a primary with 2 other great candidates who I really respect. I really do. But I'm the only candidate in this field that has the resources, that has developed the resources. Yes, all from individual donations. We have 1 PAC donation. Eric Swallow's PAC was very nice enough to send us $500. That's it. Everything else is individual donations. But we've raised $250,000, and I think combined they've raised about $20,000. Then that's from the last FEC report. Now they may have doubled that, tripled it. But the challenge at hand is to win this race.
Yes.
The challenge is not to, oh, good, they pulled it within 6. Bullshit. The job is to win, or we can't help impact change and do better for this district. So that is going to take nothing less than the largest campaign that has ever been built in the history of North Alabama, because we have a fight ahead. And anything other than seeing that clear-eyed is really gaslighting. And I'm not going to gaslight anybody. We have a fight, and if they want to win this fight, they need to, whoever their horse is, and I hope it's me, because I say the path to victory is through the middle. That is the only path to victory in this district. You can have want in one hand and spit in the other, okay? That is the path. If there is a path to victory, we need 32,000 people that didn't vote last election or voted a different way to come vote for a Democrat. Because I am a proud Democrat. I'm proud for so many. We are the party that solves problems. FDR got us out of the Great Depression. Lyndon Johnson and Kennedy got us the Civil Rights Act. Clinton was the last president to balance the budget. Obama told us, yes, we can. Si se puede. And he got us the ACA, on which 20 million Americans rely. So if you want a problem solved, you turn to a Democrat. but we have to meet people where they are. And we can't do that if we're not winning races. So I hope that we can be clear-eyed about this challenge. And it's not about more qualified or less qualified. It's about understanding the moment and what we're going to have to do to try to win.
I like it, man. Listen, I hope, I like the message. I like, I think that it's the message that I've been preaching for a long time. Here, and I like you. I like Candace. I like Jeremy. I like, what they stand for and who they are,
Absolutely.
and
Yes.
it kind of goes to the same thing. David and I have disagreed about the race for the governor's in the governor's race on the Democratic side, and but it's the same way. I feel like Will Boyd and I agree on 99% of things. And whoever else is probably going to run on the Democratic side. I don't know that necessarily I agree with Jamil on a lot of stuff, but as it's mercy. But
no, it's Will
You
and
see me
Doug.
staying like Switzerland over here. I'm just gonna
Yeah,
stay.
yeah.
I understand.
It's
but
Will and Doug. It's Will and Doug. You don't need
yeah.
to mention the other ones,
right?
Yeah.
And so it's but I wish that we could all take this approach of things of hey, look, and this is also been my argument with Dr. Reed and with Doug and with Dr. Kelly and all these other folks is, hey, look, man, I understand we got differences on things, okay, but we agree on life.
Yes.
95% or more on all the things that we're talking about that impact people's lives and how to make them better. And so we need to figure out the best way to do that. And I personally like your approach with this. I like the working class approach. The through the middle has always been kind of my idea of how this thing is going to get turned around. And so, man, I wish you nothing but the best on this. And we really do appreciate you coming and spending some time with us and getting the message out. And if we can help, let us know. We'll be glad to help along the way. And if you need to get a better haircut or a worse haircut, I don't know that I don't know that I could necessarily help you, but I know some people. I know some people. So you just let us know. But Andrew, thank you, man, so much for coming on with us.
Truly appreciate y'all having me on.
Absolutely.
Take it easy, Andrew.
It's Andrew Sneed.
Thank y'all so much.
Get out and vote for him. He's a good dude, and we're gonna slide out. It's Alabama Politics This Week.